Hey all, welcome to Civilization 5, Vox Populi. Today I'm gonna briefly show you a game I had with Gajah Mada, who is the leader of Indonesia. Before we start, I want to briefly talk about the unique abilities of Indonesia. So first, when you found or conquer a city, one of 3 unique luxury resources appears under a city, or next to the city. The luxury resources are clove, pepper, and nutmeg, which is really good because with Vox Populi you may know that happiness is a really big problem, so it's very nice to somewhat constantly have a source of luxuries, and then you know, you can obviously trade it with other civilizations. It's generally very nice, and throughout the whole game I didn't have any issues with happiness, which is usually not the case. And then the unique units are Chris Swordsman. So the Chris Swordsman replaced the Swordsman, the regular Swordsman. I should actually mention that Gajah Mada himself was, I believe, a Chris Swordsman. Anyway, it's not the best special unit. So it's basically very similar to the regular Swordsman, but it starts with the Mysticblade Promotion. That promotion is whenever you have a first fight, it will pick randomly one of, I believe, 8 different promotions. And in my whole run, I only had, I think, 2 Chris Swordsmen total, and I think the promotions mostly just gave him max HP, or you know, more health and more strength. Nothing too major. But then the more interesting thing is the special building, the Candy, which replaces the garden. So it's very similar to a garden, but it does provide 2 faith and 2 culture. And then also a new luxury resource will appear near or under the city when it is built. And again, the luxury resources are either a clove, pepper, or nutmeg. So that's again really helping out with happiness, having so many luxury resources. Alright, and then there are a bunch of other things the Candy does, but it matches, I think most of them matches what the garden would do anyway. It doesn't require an aqueduct, so you can build it much sooner. Okay, so rather than show you the whole game, I think I'm just going to show you the end of game summary. So as you can tell, this is already after I had just won a victory. So let's go through the game really quickly. I'll show you a few images or slices of video just to emphasize my point. But as you can see, I'm light blue in the upper left side. So I'm on a separate island. Below me I have Genghis Khan, which is always fun to have in any civilization game. And then on the left I have Carthage, and on the far right in bright red is Xerxes from Persia. Okay, so very early on I had to fight Carthage because they settled cities on my island here, and in a second on the right side too. This was easy fights. I used archers. The cities were barely developed, so I took them over and I destroyed them because I really didn't need those cities. And then you can see that Genghis Khan took over the city-state over here, and that will be important later. That city-state is going to be a very big player in this whole game. And then I also took my city-state just to make it easier. There's one tile that my city-state had that overlapped with Genghis Khan's island. That was very useful later on. The next conflict was over the island in the middle of the ocean. So you can see Genghis Khan and I settled almost at the same time. I actually had my settler there, but he beat me by literally 1 turn. I wasn't able to settle the location I really wanted, since I believe it had iron, and later on I also find out that it will have coal. So instead I settled on the other side of that island, and we basically went to war immediately over that island. It was actually very difficult because the city-state between us was allied with him. So it was definitely an uphill battle. I actually decided to not have a coastal city on that side because at this point my navy was very underdeveloped, and I was afraid that if I had a coastal city and he would attack me with ships, there's nothing I can do. So my city in the middle of the island there does not have any ocean access, which was fine in the beginning. It definitely helped with defense, but later on it sort of limited my growth, which was fine. Yeah, you can see on the right that at one point I was at war with every AI, which was interesting, especially since they were pretty much allied with every city-state. I didn't have any allies. Anyway, moving on, after some back and forth, I was able to pop a great general right there. And I want to show you how this looks like, because I think that changed the whole game. So this is where I'm popping it. You see the great general in the middle here. Okay, I pop him right there. Obviously, this is right after declaring peace with Genghis Khan, so he couldn't declare war immediately, but he clearly wasn't happy. And so, yeah, what happens here is the citadel is on top of a hill, And you can tell that I'm only 2 tiles away from the citadel. So if I placed catapults and archers or crossbowmen at this point in my city Zurich as well as next to it, I was able to bombard that citadel or any unit standing on that citadel. And also after a while I had 2 cannons that had a range of 3. So I was able to bombard that citadel tile with up to 3 units and then whatever naval units I had at that point. The reason I say this changed the game is because Genghis Khan was basically trying to destroy that citadel. You would throw units at it, but remember, entering the citadel requires all of your movement points and also deals you some damage. So I had time, I was able to see when he was entering the citadel, and then usually he was weak enough that I could just bombard and kill. And so that way I actually got rid of a lot of units. It was very useful. It was also exactly what this game needed. At that point, I was lagging behind in technology. I was hoping to go for a cultural victory, but Genghis Khan was taking away all wonders left and right. It was very difficult to get any new wonder in the Middle Ages. You can tell he's the biggest AI. He has a lot of territory. But that beachhead really helped me out. So what happens next is I finally got around to building up my navy. I was able to build up a lot of frigates. And so I took over that city that he built on the island I originally wanted to take, which is really nice. It actually, I believe, had a wonder when I took it over. And that was really just a war of attrition. I was just throwing units at him. I actually believe the World Congress helped me a lot because I was able to make that city-state that was between us on the island, make it neutral territory through the World Congress. So I didn't have to war with it, and instead could just focus on that new city. I finally took it over, and remember, this whole time while we're fighting over that city, I'm also slowly but surely killing units on that citadel tile. Anyway, then Carthage backstabbed me, so I briefly made peace with Genghis Khan and took over 2 of their main cities, again with my, at this point, very big navy. And then this is when the trade-off with the city-state happened, the Genghis Khan city-state. So I want to show you the footage here, because in the speed-up version, you don't even see how often it changed hands. But the key to remember is that when you take over a city and make it yours, annex it or make it a puppet, that city will end up with 0 health. So if the enemy has units around when you take over that city, he can just take it over the next turn without any problems. But when you liberate a city, when you liberate it to be a city-state, it actually spawns back with 50% health. So that makes it a little harder for the enemy to take it over. So we did that a few times. We're going back and forth. So you can see that Genghis Khan has a lot of land units and I have a lot of naval units. So this is me taking over the city for the 2nd time with my navy. And then slowly but surely I am pushing a few land units into that land. And then he took it over for the 2nd time. And every time it does spawn with half of the health because it is his city. But every time I liberate it, like here, it spawns back with 50%. So it makes it a little harder for him to take it back. So we did it a few times. I was fully ready to just do a back and forth until I have enough land units to get rid of all of his units, but that actually didn't end up happening. I was also slowly starting to push in units from the left, from Carthage. Anyway, so here he took the city over for a 3rd time. And then next I took it over and liberated it for a 3rd time. And this is when Genghis Khan actually offered peace. That was very surprising. I actually didn't want to accept it first because I thought I want to get his capital and get him to capitulate. But he actually offered me a city right there. The city is on the far right side of its land. It's completely unrelated, but I'm guessing it's his weakest city. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's take it. And that's how that war ended temporarily. From this point on, it was very quick. I'm actually slowing down the footage a little bit so you can see it better. I made peace with Genghis Khan and then attacked Carthage again. I believe they actually backstabbed me once more. So I liberated one of their city-states. And then I took over the capital on the top left. And I left them one city. At that point, they were my vassal. So they were useful. They distracted Genghis Khan a little bit. While I was doing that, mostly with my navy, I focused my land army on the other cities from Genghis Khan. So I took over most of them and I left them with 2 cities before declaring a brief peace. During that time, I sent my navy, which at this point was not very useful since the remaining cities of Genghis Khan were landlocked. I sent the navy over to Persia and just focused on their capital. That took a few turns, but that was very easy. At this point, my navy was superior and I was also ahead in technology, so there's not much that the enemy could have done. I took over the capital, made Persia my vassal, and then focused back on Genghis Khan, and that's how the game ended. Before I go, I just want to show you the cities that I ended up with. So this is Jakarta, my capital. You can see it has a pretty good amount of luxuries, and that's probably also helped by Indonesia's unique ability to generate luxuries whenever you build their unique building. And then in terms of wonders, I basically had a lot of early game wonders and a lot of late game wonders, very few in between. So early in the game I had wonders like the Parthenon, the Hanging Gardens, or the School of Philosophy. And then later on I had things like the Eiffel Tower and other late game units. At that point the enemies were not really working on wonders, they were trying to defend against my constant attacks. But yeah, since I had a lot of wonders in the beginning, I thought maybe I'll go for a culture victory. You can also see that I had a lot of great works. I was really prioritizing getting great artists, great musicians, and great writers. But then Genghis Khan came and started building a lot of wonders. So here is Genghis Khan's capital, Attila's court. So you can see he has a lot of medieval wonders. So he really didn't leave me a choice but to just attack him and try to win this through military means. Yeah, it was a very fun run. It took me, I think, a total of 15 hours, although I was playing it very slow. I wasn't really trying to go for time. I am planning to do a few more civilization runs, sort of these sped up versions. Do let me know if you like this kind of content, or if you have any feedback. It's the first time I'm really doing anything besides Slay the Spire and Minecraft, so if you're interested in seeing more, if you're interested in seeing longer versions or detailed videos on each fight, let me know in the comments. Alright, I'll leave with the victory message. Bye!
The world has been convulsed by war. Many great and powerful civilizations have fallen. But you have survived and emerged victorious. The world will long remember your glorious triumph.